Welcome back! Last episode we've made an apartment and today I want to build a small noodle shop. And when I say small I mean really small. Rather tiny probably. Teeny tiny, minuscule even. Microscopic. Just like all videos we have to do something boring before we can actually start the build itself. And well, this time we have to complete this kind of highway overpass first. Because at the moment I wouldn't really describe it as structurally stable. It's like an inch thick. So the first task for today will be to make the bridge a bit more realistic looking, I guess. And because I hate myself, we're doing it like this again. With this being the building technique where you basically just put stuff onto carpets and that makes it float for some reason. But it's worked for every build of mine in the past. So I don't see why it should stop working now. Though I have to admit it's probably the most tedious way to build anything. And well, I've started recording 3 minutes ago and we're already finished with this part of the bridge. So it's surprisingly fast. Well, now that the underside of the bridge has been finished in record time, we can now talk about like what the actual video is about. So for this video, I kind of want to fill up this corner with a noodle shop, but I'm not sure how well that's going to work. Mainly because this wall is only 2 squares wide, and I'm not really sure how well that's going to work with what I have in mind. So recently I was just kind of looking for more inspiration for this series. Because, you know, until now I've just kind of used Cyberpunk 2077 as inspiration. And don't get me wrong, using Cyberpunk is a great way to kind of find inspiration when doing something like this. Especially since you can just kind of walk around and look at stuff more closely. But, you know, I just wanted to use something a bit different for inspiration. So anyway, I decided to watch Blade Runner 2045? 49? I don't actually remember, I think it's 49. And because the Blade Runner movies are probably some of the more like famous cyberpunk movies, I thought that I could find some good inspiration for this build. But it turns out that only like 1% of the movie actually takes place in the city. So it was kind of disappointing that I could take barely any inspiration for this build. I guess whatever I do in the end I just end up with taking inspiration from Cyberpunk 2077 again. Anyways, this is the noodle shop so far. I've added in these kind of towels. I've seen these a lot with like Japanese restaurants where, you know, you don't really go inside but kind of sit on the street, just like here, if that makes sense. I'm not sure if I like them or not. I feel like I can't really find a good texture for these. Right now they're like this kind of fluffy carpet texture. I don't think it works that well, but I don't have any alternatives. Maybe this will grow on me, I don't really know. But to move from this topic where I have no idea what I want to do, let's move to the interior, where I have no idea what I want to do. There's not really any space to work with in here, so I can't really do much. I mean for the ceiling, some of these vents could work. We could also add in some storage. Now I don't want to put too much detail into this shop. For one, of course, because the interior is literally tiny. It's 3 by 2 squares big and half the space is taken up by these counters. So, you know, it wouldn't make that much sense to put like loads of detail into such a tiny space. But also you literally cannot see any of the detail we're putting in right now because of these banners. So that's why detailing this space up is not my biggest priority right now. Also, this is off topic, but why is the hitbox of these chopsticks so small? Like I have to hit them perfectly or else I'm moving the entire counter. That's a tad bit annoying, but at least it will look like people are actually eating at this place. I kind of want to have TVs in here, but because of these vents this wall is kind of blocked, which makes me think I do believe we have TVs that are kind of mounted onto the ceiling. Yeah, right here. And honestly, that's pretty good. We have to place it in front of this vent, but it doesn't look too bad actually. I mean you would constantly hit your head on it when you're working here, and it probably also blocks the fridge from opening. But I like it, so it can stay. And the last thing I'll add are some wall details, like these fuse boxes, and yeah, who cares? A fire extinguisher as well. Then of course, to make it look especially cyberpunky, we'll just add in some random cables that lead to nowhere. And some more running up the walls. And I mean, for a tiny noodle shop, this is probably enough already. But there's actually something else I also want to do in this episode, which has something to do with what we did last time in this series, which was this apartment. Now, there's nothing wrong with the apartment, I still really do like it, but the problem is with this elevator, because if you go to the floor below, it doesn't actually connect to anything. And that's what I want to change today. So right next to this building, I want to have the entrance to a parking garage, which will go up to the first floor, so people can park their cars and stuff, and then come over here and use the elevator to go to their apartments. That's the plan at least. So for now, I'll just start working on the exterior. Since it's connected to the apartment, maybe it would make sense to make the building look kind of similar to this one. So let's just start by copying over the wooden pillars. You know what? We did not use a lot of ads on the exteriors until now. I think I like it. A few lights would go a long way though. This is not really what I had in mind, but to be honest. I mean, it doesn't look awful, but it's also not great. But I can't really point out what I don't like. Maybe the ad is ruining it for me? Does it look better without the ads? Honestly, don't know. I think it does. But it also doesn't really feel that cyberpunky because we barely have any ads at all. I mean, theoretically, instead of having the ads right here, we could kind of attach them onto this bridge. That could work out, I think. I mean, after all, I did put some kind of effort into these, so it would be a shame if we didn't use them. I think I like them. We should probably lower them down a bit though, because at the moment they're sticking through the floor. I think this kind of works. Well, that was a pretty big distraction. But now we can focus on the parking garage again. We're not gonna do anything fancy for this parking garage. I'm just going to use these basic long ramps and a set of stairs. And that's already it. Even though this is technically a parking garage, I didn't actually put in any parking spaces. Mainly because, you know, those would take up tons and tons of space. And it would kind of stick into the plots of land next to this building, which would make it really difficult to build anything in there afterwards. And you know, the main goal of this was to kind of connect the empty floor of the elevator to anything really. And with this I kind of achieved it in a reasonable way. So honestly, I'm fine with it being connected to something you can't really use. But to talk about the build now, I've built this in a very like utilitarian style, I guess, so it's very much function over form. And you can see it looks very run down, and it actually gets worse the longer it goes on. But something I did was to place tons and tons of ads on the walls. Because, I mean, after all, this is Cyberpunk, and the ads are definitely something I did way too little of in the past builds. And talking about ads, I've also put a lot of them onto the pedestrian bridge we did on the first episode. And also talking of bridges, as you can see, I've actually started working on the kind of highway bridge that we did in the beginning of this episode, and that we've kind of started during the apartment build. And well, the design of this bridge is pretty simple. I just added these concrete barriers to the sides, and I've added in some road markings, but it is very like it's very low detail. You're not going to see this very much. You're basically only going to see this bridge from the bottom up, so I mean this is perfectly fine, especially to save on plot data. Before we start the tour, I did finish a lot of stuff off camera. At this rate, like half of this episode was done off camera. I've detailed up this bridge off camera a bit, and this one too, I think. No, I did that on camera. I've just placed a lot of ads on here and some cables, you know the usual. But now to the actual like subject of the video. I think the Noodle shop looks pretty, I mean it looks fine, it looks alright. And well, we can't walk into the interior, but we can still sit down and look at it that way. So there's the storage, there's the fridge, there's the grill. And I mean for something you can only access by... For something you can only really see when sitting down, it looks serviceable, it looks alright. And right next to the shop is this parking garage. I mean, I replaced some of the ads, and I've also created some new ones. But other than that, there's not really anything of interest in here. But anyways, yeah, that's already it. This was a very short tour. But thank you so much for watching. Also, as always, comment down below what you want to see next, and I'll see you in the next episode. Bye.